guys, I'm back. How are you? You have no idea how much I missed you. I'm very, very, very sorry for not posting in a long while, but I was sick. And now that I'm better, I'm back with a new story. So, tell me, who likes Peter Pan? Today, I have Peter Pan story. So let's start. Peter Pan. Deep in the heart of London was the house where the Darling family lived. Wendy Darling shared the nursery with her two younger brothers, John and Michael. At bedtime, Wendy told her brothers stories about faraway place called the Neverland. The hero of these stories was called Peter Pan. Peter Pan was a boy who never grew up. Peter's special friend was a tiny fairy called Tinker Bell. John and Michael loved to act out these stories in which Peter had wonderful adventures. One day, Peter Pan showed up at the children's nursery. "Fly with me to Neverland," Peter urged. "You never have to grow up there." So Wendy agreed at once, as long as her brothers could come along too. So Peter told Wendy, John, and Michael to each think a wonderful thought. Then he shook Tinkerbell over them, sparkling them with pixie dust. Pixie dust gave them the ability to fly. And before they knew it, the excited children were soaring high above the rooftops of London. "We'll take the second star to the right and fly straight on until morning," Peter called, leading the way. By the time the children flew over the enchanted world of Neverland, all was not well. Tinkerbell was becoming jealous of Wendy because Peter seemed to like her far too much. Without waiting for the others, Tinkerbell flew straight to Peter's hideout. This was where his friends, who are called the Lost Boys, also lived. The fairy told the Lost Boys that a terrible Wendy bird was heading their way and that Peter had ordered them to attack it. When Peter and the Darling family flew into sight, the Lost Boys used their catapults and pea shooters to knock the Wendy bird out of the way. Luckily, Peter managed to catch Wendy before she crashed to the ground. But he was furious with Tinkerbell. As a punishment, he sent the naughty fairy away for a whole week. Later that day, Peter sent John, Michael, and the Lost Boys off to capture Indians, while he took Wendy on a tour of the island. The boys set off on their adventures and soon arrived in a clearing in the middle of a wood. "We must surround the enemy and take them by surprise," John whispered. But the Indians had disguised themselves as trees and took the boys by surprise instead. The boys were captured and taken back to the Indian village. Meanwhile, Peter had taken Wendy to the beautiful mermaid lagoon. However, the mermaids were not very nice to her. Was trying to make Wendy and the mermaids friends when suddenly he spotted a rowing boat in a distance. "Why, it's Captain Hook!" he cried. Captain Hook was a wicked pirate, and he was Peter Pan's greatest enemy. Once, a hungry crocodile followed Captain Hook everywhere, hoping for a chance to gobble him up. Peter Pan and Wendy followed Hook as he headed towards Skull Rock. Peter was shocked to see the Indian princess, Tiger Lily, in the boat too. He and Wendy watched as Hook tied the princess to a rock in the sea, But Peter knew he had to help.
Don't tell me where Peter Pan's hideout is,
the wicked pirate snarled at Tiger Lily.
I'll leave you here to drown.
Tiger Lily was very frightened, but she refused to betray her friend. Suddenly, Peter flew down in front of Hook.
You again?
The captain cried, rushing at Peter with his sword. Up and down the rocky cliffs they fought. Then Hook slipped and only just managed to grab hold of the rocks to stop himself from falling into the sea. Down below, the crocodile snapped hungrily. Mr. Smee, the boatman, rushed over and pulled Hook into his rowing boat. As Mr. Smee hastily rowed back to the pirate ship, the crocodile was snapping right behind them. Peter and Wendy rescued Tiger Lily and took her home. The Indian chief had been very worried about his daughter and was overjoyed to see she was safe. To thank Peter, he set John, Michael, and the lost boys free. He also made Peter an honorary chief. At last, tired out after their adventures, Peter and the children decided to return to Peter's secret hideout. That evening, Hook welcomed Tinkerbell on board his ship. He told her that he needed her help to catch Wendy. All she had to do was to show Hook where Peter's hideout was. Tinkerbell was delighted to help. She dipped her toes in a bottle of ink and danced across a map of Neverland. Her footprints clearly showed the way to Peter's hideout. Hook smiled. He grabbed Tinkerbell and locked her in a glass lantern. At last, he could get his revenge on Peter Pan once and for all. Captain Hook and the other pirates were waiting outside the hideout. They captured the children and took them back to Hook's ship, where they tied them to a ship's mast. Hook returned to the ship. He left a parcel for Peter. It had a label on it that said, "To Peter with love from Wendy." On board his ship, Hook snarled at the children.
You have a choice. Either sign your name in my book and join my pirate band, or walk the plank,
he said. The boys quite liked the idea of becoming pirates, but Wendy didn't. "Peter Pan will save us," she said. Laughed loudly.
"Peter Pan won't save you this time," he sneered. "We left a surprise present for him. A bomb. Very out of Neverland forever."
Hearing these words, Tinkerbell knew she had to warn Peter. She struggled into her little glass prison. Suddenly, there was a loud crash. The glass lantern broke and Tinkerbell was free. The tiny fairy reached Peter's hideout just as he was about to open the parcel that had the bomb. She grabbed it from him and threw it as far away as she could. Seconds later, Tinkerbell told Peter that Wendy and the others were in danger. Peter sped off to rescue them, with Tinkerbell close behind. Hook had forced Wendy to walk the plank. When she stepped out the end of the plank, everyone waited for the splash. But it never came, because Peter Pan had arrived just in time to lift Wendy safely back onto the ship. Then he turned to face his enemy. There was a loud clash of steel as Peter's dagger and Hook's sword met. Back and forth they went in the most terrible battle ever fought. Stilfa climbed up to the top of the ship. Hook lunged at Peter, who fought back, finally forcing the captain to slip and fall backwards.
In the water below was the hungry crocodile. The children clapped and cheered as they watched Hook trying to escape the crocodile's snapping jaws. Hook spotted Mr. Smee in the rowing boat and swam towards him, but the crocodile was right behind and catching up. As Hook disappeared in the distance, Peter gave the order to raise the anchor. Then Tinker Bell sprinkled the pirate ship with magic pixie dust. In no time at all, the ship was soaring high above Neverland and heading back towards London. Wendy, John, and Michael were safely back in their nursery, and up in the sky was the outline of the pirate ship. And Tinker Bell and the Lost Boys, who weren't quite ready to grow up yet, were off on another wonderful adventure. So, what do you think about our story today? Did you like it? I hope that you did. See you soon. Bye.